Hello and welcome everybody. I'm Dr. Katherine Horton, and today I just would like to give a brief update, but before I do so, let me just do a sound check. And welcome everybody. Oh yes, you can hear me fine. Okay, so what I would like to say first of all is that you're probably watching this on my YouTube channel, and as you know, there's a weekly broadcast called Global Crime Fighters, which has not been taking place for the last 2 weeks because I had to move house because of the attacks on me. Now, today, the episode is not also not going to take place, but it will take place on Saturday. So today's episode is shifted to Saturday, and you can watch me live on, if you're in the US, on the East Coast at 2 p.m. on Saturday. And if you're in Central Europe, this will be 8 p.m. If you are in the UK, this will be 7 p.m. on Saturday. So this will be the follow-up in the series called Global Crime Fighters. Now, should you suffer withdrawal symptoms and be super eager to continue the investigation, I ask you to go to the playlist here and watch the last couple of episodes, especially the episode Going to University was epic. It was 5 hours long, as you can see here. So it was actually 2.5 weeks worth of work. So I'm pretty sure that you guys haven't watched the entire episode, but at the same time, it's also very, very important that you watch it because it goes to the heart of where the crime cartel is, how it has infested universities and schools and so on and so on. And universities are very important because that is where a lot of the research, including the brain research and weapons research, is actually taking place in a covert fashion. And elite universities, for example, the University of Oxford, where I went to university and where I was a research fellow, they are heavily involved in all this. So the leads eventually lead back to these places. And also it should be said that elite universities are usually the roaming ground, the sandbox of the intelligence agencies. They are the recruitment ground. But in the case of Oxford, it was also set up by the cartel. Okay, and I think that's pretty true of all universities. Now, the episode that will take place on Saturday will be called Going Undercover. So if you look at this, you can see that the last couple of episodes were going to school, going to university, and the next one will be going undercover. And it's almost like tracing the path of somebody who's growing up, is, being brainwashed at school, then brainwashed or recruited at university, and eventually joins the intelligence agencies. But of course, what I'm trying to do here is expose all this and show you that things are not the way they seem, okay, in all these places. But for you to understand what I'm going to talk about next week, you really have to understand the basics of what I'm talking about here. So a quick recap. This was the introductory episode where I was trying to expand the entire remit of the series from a focus on the US and Europe to a global focus. So this episode was mostly about Venezuela because it was topical at the time. Then I was talking about all the tools and the equipment that victims of the intelligence agencies or investigators need. We talked about underground bases. We talked about the sex trafficking. This was episode number 4. And then I went through systematically and I looked at all the different institutions that have been subverted by the intelligence agencies and the global crime cartel for which they work. Now, next week will be next episode on Saturday will be a very, it should be heavy going and it should be a lot of new information. But for all the investigators out there should also be definite live leads. And also for the victims, there should be definite content that you can quote in your court cases that will be relevant to you, to your court case, to your investigation. So it's a very, very important episode. And in a sense, I'm glad I had to shift it to the weekend because, know, if you're tuning in on the Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, chances are that you have much more time than if it's during the week. And I really, really hope that what I present on the show will be taken up by investigators, that they will follow up the leads. And also, I would like to use the next episode to really start getting down to the nitty-gritty and start really building cases against these criminals and start arresting them. And because a lot of these criminals are inside the intelligence agencies coordinating these global crimes, then that will be the occasion to do it. That will be the episode that kicks it off. Okay, another couple of things I would like to say is that if you go to my website, I've got two websites. One of them is stop007.org. The second one is called jointinvestigation.org. This is the team that I founded. The Joint Investigation Team is investigating crimes with directed energy weapons, military neurobiotechnology, and systemic corruption. Okay. Now, what I would like to you to do is familiarize yourself with these two sites. And I should say that both are under construction. And my personal site has a lot more information, but it's a bit higgledy-piggledy. I'm in the process of tidying it up. But over the coming weeks, there will be a lot more information uploaded here, okay? And the plan will be that, so here, the Joint Investigation Team will be publishing reports about this criminality. And the idea is that these will be reports that you can quote in your court case. Okay, it will be PDF documents. A couple are already up here. And these are the documents. Here's some first aid guides for victims, an equipment list for victims, and so on and so on. Now, these documents will be updated and expanded, and new documents will be added. But a very important document is here, this affidavit template, okay? Now, the explanatory notes for the affidavit survey should have been published months ago in August, actually in July, but I just didn't have the time. And every single time I work on the affidavit template, I get literally mauled. I get absolutely shot to bits with direct energy weapons. So I had to wait until I got to somewhere safe. Many of you know that I had to flee to Hungary as I was drawing up the affidavit template. But now putting the finishing touches on, I had to literally wait until I moved to a new residence for me to be able to have the, the calm and quiet to even be able to finish these. I'm almost done, and I would like to ask everybody, those who have already filled out the affidavit template, please wait before you submit it until you have the explanatory notes, because the explanatory notes will be explaining in detail how I will use your affidavit. It will be a legal guarantee so that you know how I intend to use your information precisely, and you will have this document which will be signed by me. And I ask you to keep it, because should anybody misuse your data, you and I can go and take them to court, okay? For me, it's very important that the data of the victims is used to convict the criminals, jail them, or give them the death penalty, right? But it's very important for me that your data is not being used, to cause more harm. So this is why I've been sitting on these explanatory notes for so long, because I want to get them right. Now, I want you to know that the place to look for these documents is here on the jointinvestigation.org website under JIT reports, and you can also find them on my website. And there's a quick link put here under news. Okay. Now, I said many times that the explanatory notes will, here, look, I wanted to publish them at the end of August. I screwed that one up royally. But anyway, it will also be published here. If you want to familiarize yourself with it, if you click on the PDF form, you can view it. So this is what it looks like. The affidavit template at its core, ideally jump to the middle. You will see that all types of offenses are listed here. And then you can just tick how often that you've suffered them. Do you have evidence? Yes, no. And when did it start in the format of month and year? Okay, so, this affidavit template, you can really note down the typical crimes that victims of government targeting would suffer, which is an extensive program. Okay. Now, I also ask you guys to have a look at this and actually read through. I will be publishing videos where I explain every section and I will go through them. But I want you to take this seriously if you're a victim or if you're an investigator, because for the court cases, this is the quickest way to pool information. Because as every victim knows, individual cases are vast, okay? Absolutely vast. If you want to stop these crimes, you have to condense down the information and what's happening. So this is why this is very important. And I remind you, the PDF form is just for viewing only. If you want to fill it out, you have to download the affidavit form in the OpenOffice format, and you have to download OpenOffice, which is just like Microsoft Word, but it's free. Okay, a link to OpenOffice is here, and it's pretty idiot-proof to download it. If you just go to download and then you select, what type of operating system you have, which language you are speaking, and which version you would like. And I also encourage you to download the language pack so that you can do spell checking. Okay, now this is very, very important. Let me go back. Okay, so the affidavit collection is very important. And another thing that will be very, very important is down here, the research library, where already you can find a patent list that a gentleman sent me kindly, combining his research into these crimes, a list of 110 patents. And I think there's even more patents we can find and add to the list by now. There's here the explanation of body area networks that are unlawfully implanted in vast parts of the civilian population of the world without their knowledge. There's, information about the global genocide, about 1,500 victim cases you can download, and also high-profile affidavits by whistleblowers. Now, there's a lot more documentation I have. I have about, I would say, 1 terabyte. So you can imagine that takes a lot of work to pull out the important bit, but I'm doing it now for the upcoming court cases. And I plan to include a lot of the information here. But, as you can imagine, I have to find a way to structure this information so that we don't get overloaded. So this is the plan, and my communication to you throughout these court processes will be my YouTube channel, which you can find here, okay? And, oops, sorry, let me just mute it. In the meantime, let me have a look. Okay, there are already people joining, 49 people watching already. Thank you, guys. Let me also do a sound check. Okay, yes, still working. Right. Now, I also would like to draw your attention to the Special Investigators series. I plan to interview many more special investigators. Now, Dr. Joseph Farrell has been leading research into the spread of the Nazis, who, as many of you probably know by now, have not been defeated. They were just a front organization of a much bigger global crime cartel that, for example, also has the Masons as a front organization. And after the war ended, a lot of the Nazi war criminals were funneled out using the intelligence agency networks and the Masonic and Jesuit networks, and funneled to South America, for example, to Argentina and so on. Now, we need to understand this background. We need to, if you want to understand the global crime cartel that is committing large-scale financial crime today and is committing mass murder around the world, we have to really understand history. Okay, so I encourage you to listen to Dr. Farrell and really absorb the information he has for you. Now, the other thing I also would like to say, I warn you against the anti-Russian, anti-Chinese, anti-any nationality brainwash. And I've put out an analysis here, or many analyses actually, but one about the Skripal case, which is the newest installment of anti-Russian brainwash in the United Kingdom. It's a total hoax, and I'm trying to explain to you, how you can detect that, but also more importantly, that hoax, the Skripal hoax that was staged entirely by British intelligence, has a lot of what I have termed cartel signaling. It has a secret code with which the organized crime cartel communicates to its members and basically says, guys, don't crap your pants. This is not for real. This is just a joke. Okay, you guys stick to the plan that we've given you, everything under control. The Masons and the crime cartel still rule. All is going according to plan. Now, these sort of signals you can find in news reports and but also in Hollywood movies. And when you study this sort of cartel signaling, you will learn they are using always the same terminology. Okay, so this is why if you follow my channel, I'm banging on about cartel signaling so much. It's not because, you know, this is just my hobby. It's because this is the global communication language of this organized crime cartel. And very much just like Pizzagate, once you understand the code words, you know, for example, pizza means, you know, little girl, and hot dog means little boy, and you know their little logos, you suddenly realize, oh my goodness, you know, this child trafficking ring in that case is vast, and their insider logos and recognition symbols, suddenly, you know, you notice them elsewhere, and it turns out those places where it crops up are also connected to child trafficking. So this is a reality, everybody, and I'm just trying to put out the information. I also would like to say I'm going to open a new playlist, and in the new playlist, I will be putting out all the hands-on information that you will need to put together your court case and to protect yourself and your family, and hopefully get a lot of monetary damages and compensation for what has been done to you and your family. Okay, so this is it. I also would like to say I'm also publishing shows in German, and because of the attacks on me, I have been extremely negligent in catching up. There's a second version, which is the Global Crime Fighters in German. And as you can see, there's only one episode, whereas there have already been 6 in English. And I would like to say that to the German speakers, I will try to expand the effort in translating my shows to German and publishing them in German as well. Okay. Now, the final thing I would like to say about this website here is that I also encourage everybody to watch these 3 playlists, which is systems analysis basics that you need to know to understand what's going on, the global pivot out of the what I call the empire of bullshit, and then also a set of tips of how to fight psychopathic systems. Now, this lecture course here is really the basis, okay, to understand everything. Okay, and then if you want more information, I encourage you to also watch these the people I name here, because they are the at the forefront of you know, leading the fight against this global organized crime. Okay, so so much about that. As I said, Global Crime Fighters, will be taking place on Saturday. It will be at 2 p.m. on the East Coast on the United States. It will be 8 p.m. for the people in Central Europe, according to Zurich and Berlin time. And it will be 7 p.m. for the people in the UK, so according to London time. I hope to see you there on Saturday. And I also hope that I get more and more people to actually look at the information on my website and start to teach themselves about this global crime cartel. And the final thing I would like to say, this was a petition that I've come across, which actually amused me quite a bit. There's a petition that's still running. It was started in August 2017, but it's still running, and it's on the Petitions for the White House page, and it says, declare George Soros, by the way, he's a Hungarian, so declare George Soros, which is why I pronounce his name like that, a terrorist, and seize all of his related organizations' assets under RICO and NDAA law. Now, I think this is a very, very good idea, because he has been funding in the US domestic terrorism, and he also has been funding international terrorism. As many of you know, he has been, he and his organizations have been kicked out of Hungary, and because of his influence, there have been extreme repercussions against the Hungarian Prime Minister, Viktor Orban, who actually, you know, fought and his party fought to kick out George Soros. They also kicked out the International Monetary Fund, both of which had severe repercussions. And unfortunately, both George Soros's Open Society network and also, you know, the IMF have been acting as terrorist organizations, destabilizing nations around the world, not just Hungary. But I would like you to consider this petition, sign up, and I would like you to consider bringing more petitions, and later down the line also actual court cases against these terrorists. and use exactly the laws or other laws that you that apply to seize the assets. This is very important, because if you want to cut terrorists of any type, you have to cut their funding. Okay, and most countries, also in the UK, there's, I think it's called the Profiting from the Proceeds of Crime Act or something like that. It has some ludicrously catchy name that I can never remember. And so, you know, in most parts of the Anglo-Saxon world already, there are methods to seize assets, to drain the funding from terrorists and organized criminals, and now they have to be applied. Okay, so I draw your attention to this petition. I ask you to open other petitions like it, because there are many, many more terrorists and you know, rich people and rich networks funding this. And I always think petitions are a sort of a way to come together, see how many people agree with you. In this case, 169,641 people already signed it. Okay, so 170,000 people rounded have already signed this. So, I mean, that is the size of a sizable town. Okay, I think the entirety of Zurich has something like 350,000 people. So it's as if a third of Zurich had already signed this. You know, I wish a third of Zurich had already, decided something like that. But anyway, so, you know, when you can see so many people agree on one thing, just imagine each one of those would donate $1 to bring this, to bring a court case to make this reality. For $170,000, you can already pay, you know, a decent lawyer and prepare a decent case. So, you know, this is what I'm thinking, and this is the direction where we have to move. So, unfortunately, that's all I have to say today. I'm very, very sorry that I can't come on the show today. It's a combination of me finishing my house move and me preparing all the big fireworks that I want to unleash on Saturday. And most importantly, I really want to get down to court cases now and work on the nitty-gritty. So for all the targets out there, you know, for all the people who are suffering the type of crimes that I'm describing here on my website, and that are the content of my YouTube channel, I really ask you to just take courage, take take motivation and inspiration from all the many other people who are fighting alongside you, and know that big things are changing all around the world. I also would like to say that on my YouTube channel, so the playlist that will be started, I want to teach you guys how to make a website, and I want to teach you how to do the sort of online interviews and online discussions that my former team and I, the Techno Crime Fighters Forum, have been doing, so that you can launch your own shows. Because there are many people we need to hear from who at the moment do not have a voice. And I would like you all to get together in small groups of people whom you trust and who you find very inspirational to work with, and launch your own platforms. Because the future of our society will not be mainstream media. It will not be centralized endeavors. It will be the wonderful, exciting multitude of many different efforts, and it will be a wonderful plurality, in the world. But if you want to take part in that, then you really just have to take the courage, and you have to learn the skills that you need to have to communicate with people like you around the world. And I would like to help you. I would also be grateful if other people could chime in and teach people how to, use YouTube, how to launch your own platforms, how to launch your own websites, and so on. And I really think that, we need to come together and learn about all the many topics that, we need to know about, and we need to learn from each other. And the best way to do that is to, be able to talk. And if we talk publicly, then other people can benefit from our conversation. So this is the plan. I have a lot of things planned, and I can also say to you that I can tell you that the new place where I'm now at is much better than my previous flat. I actually managed to do some work there. I still have places where I can hide away and get some work done without being tortured and mutilated as I was in my old flat. But I can also tell you that after about I think it took roughly 2 or 3 days, if I remember correctly, I started being shot at again, but this time from vertically upwards. So I am now being shot with pulsed energy projectiles that make a very loud and noticeable thud when they punch through the ceiling and, the roof above my head. And this, for me, is the ultimate proof that actually satellites are involved and also fire direct shots. Okay, but you also have to know that it's not just satellites, it's also your neighbors. And if you want to see evidence for that, you can go to my website here under evidence. And I made a video where you can actually see me being shot here at 8 minutes exactly. If you skip to that point here on this video, you can see what it looks like to be shot in the face horizontally by one of these directed energy weapons. So here's the explanation. And if I skip forward through all this text, eventually you will see here how I'm being literally, we missed that. You can see when I turn on the sound, you can see the foil move. And from the direction of movement, you can see that it's a horizontal shot. And that shot, as I explained here, went through 6 layers of aluminium. Now, this is not a normal electromagnetic pulse. This is a pulsed energy projectile from a directed energy weapon, which seems to be using a fundamentally new waveform that I didn't even know existed. So this is, for me, new physics, but I painfully made the experience that it exists, okay? So in this video, which is linked from my website here, and as I said, it's the 8-minute mark where you can see the move of aluminium. So here's the evidence that my neighbors are involved. It was a horizontal shot, but now I also have evidence that satellites are involved. And this is not too surprising. It's an integrated weapon system, which incorporates satellites and ground-based directed energy weapon assault systems. So anyway, both exist, but it still makes a difference where the shot is coming from. Because if it's a satellite, then your nation's Air Force and Airspace Command is directly responsible. And if it's a horizontal shot, then your neighbors are responsible too. They have also been recruited into organized crime and actually crimes against humanity and a global extermination program, okay, which sadly exists. So anyway, I just want you to know I'm feeling much better, and I hope I can get much, much more work done, and I already got down to it. But for these reasons, I can't come on the show, and I can't actually, do the Crime Fighters episode today. But I'm hoping to see you again on Saturday here on my channel. And I also ask you to subscribe, because as soon as you subscribe, you actually get push notifications. And just as much as I can see here that some people are live now, you will be able to see when I'm live, and the videos should pop up on your YouTube starting page, And otherwise, with the exception of this week, I am usually on Thursday afternoons or Thursday midday in the US East Coast with this Global Crime Fighters episode. And I'm hoping to return to the normal schedule after Saturday. But anyway, that's it for now, folks. Please keep up the good work, and we need to start working harder. And yes, I hope to see you all soon on Saturday with many, many news. So bye for now.